We like to start every episode with a disclaimer that we are not professionals. Our conversations are solely based on our personal experiences, thoughts, and opinions. Nothing discussed here is meant to be taken as professional mental health or medical advice. If you have questions or need assistance, please seek the help of a licensed professional.
Discussions in this podcast may sometimes revolve around heavy material such as abuse, grooming, religious trauma, etc. Please listen with caution and prioritize your mental health first.
Welcome to Trauma Bondage, the podcast where we talk about trauma, kinks, and non-traditional lifestyles and relationships. We are your hosts, Brigitte
and Beth.
Hey.
Hey, it's us. We're back again. What are we covering today?
We are talking about our coming out stories.
We are. We're talking about our coming out stories. The absolute trauma of our coming out stories. Mm-hmm. So we're going to start on a really fucking heavy topic, and then we'll hopefully lighten it up a little bit at the end. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Don't hold your fucking breath.
No, so I guess everybody's coming out story is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Mine was, I want to say, mine was like medium bad.
Okay.
Medium bad. Like on the scale, on like if we have like a level or a scale or a
if there's a Kinsey scale of coming out trauma.
Crap, it's like in the middle, but like on the side, in my opinion.
Okay.
I don't know if I've ever told you this. Do you know
I was about to say, I don't know your coming out story. I know one detail of it that you've told me before, but I don't know the whole story.
Yeah. So I was like forced out.
Right.
So
I knew you were outed. That's all I know.
Sort of, yes. Okay. More like my mom forced me to come out. So we'll get there. So I think in the first episode, I talked a little bit about my first girlfriend.
Yes.
And how I met her in between my freshman and sophomore year of college that summer.
Right.
So she was like the first woman that I like ever really was like, oh my God, like that's my thing. That's what I'm into. Like, yes. Yeah. 100% makes sense. So at the time, she lived out here in Dallas, and I was in college in Oklahoma City. Okay. So it was a long distance relationship.
Wait, how did you meet her again?
I met her through a theater internship.
Okay.
So we like were building sets and stuff like that all summer together. So it was like
that's the gayest shit I've ever heard. We were in theater together, and we were building sets.
Sets, and we were in a show together. So it was like Seussical the musical, and she was the Cat in the Hat, and I was the Sour Kangaroo. So right, like it's just so very gay. And I was an intern at the theater, and then she was just helping like building the set. So we were both working there, building sets all summer long, going to fucking Home Depot together or Lowe's. I know, it's so gay.
Lesbian heaven.
Lesbian heaven, yes. So we met. I go back to college. Everything's great. A majority of that year, anytime, like I would come home often enough because like it's like 3.5 hours away. So it wasn't horrendously far, but it was far enough to be away from my mother.
Yeah.
So I would come home often enough, especially then having a girlfriend at that point, and I would, on my way home, like I would go hang out with her for a few hours at a time. So my mom, I really don't know what the deal was, because she'd always be like, you left at this time. And I'm like, I don't know how you fucking know that I left at this time.
She
like
have cameras?
She had to have been, I think she had to have been like tracking my phone, or we'll get into this, but like I had private investigators following me around in high school. So I wouldn't be surprised if we had some of that going on in college too. I don't really know. So I would come back and spend a couple hours, and then I'd go home to my parents. And like throughout the time I was there, like I'd see her.
Were your mom and dad still together at this point?
Yes. Okay. My parents didn't divorce until my senior year of college. So this was all early.
Fuck, I didn't realize
that. We can get into the divorce another day, honey. We'll drink wine.
For some reason, I thought they divorced like when you were young.
No.
But no. Okay.
So they're still together, kind of getting to, it's early enough in college, but like getting to the peak of when shit got bad for them. But I would come home all the time and go see her and then go home. And my mom got to this point where she'd be like, you left at a certain time, but like it takes you like 3 or 4 extra hours to get home. Like you're doing weird shit. Basically, my mom was convinced that I was doing drugs or sleeping with boys, because that was always the reasoning in high school of why I had a private investigator on me, was because I was doing drugs or sleeping with boys, both of which I was doing, and yet somehow she never found that out.
Right.
In high school. But that was like her whole thing. And so we get to this one weekend where she calls me because I'm planning on coming home, And she's like, when you leave, you need to come straight home and like check in with me and let me know like different parts of the trip where you are, so I know where you're coming home. Okay. And you need to tell me what the fuck is going on. And if you don't, I'm going to put you in rehab. Right?
Just immediately assumes.
Just immediately assumed.
Oh my
that,
God.
like I was a junkie, even though like zero signs.
Right. I was going to say she would know. She would have known.
One would think, but I don't know. So yeah, she's like, I'm just going to put you in rehab until you tell me. And I'm like in the middle of school. And if you get signed into rehab against your own will, you cannot sign yourself out. So like I would be flunking my classes. Mm-hmm. And like she didn't give a flying fuck about any of that.
Yeah.
It would be like failing my classes. It was basically a manipulation, like power move to get me to talk to her.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, great. And I tell my girlfriend at the time about like that. And I'm like, I'm going to have to come out to my parents this weekend while I'm there. And she's like, do you want me to be with you? Which is super sweet. And I was like, no. Like
you're like, I'm going to spare you.
One, I'm going to spare you. But two, like as much as I would love the support, I am not going to put her in a position, like a dangerous position. Not that I think it would be dangerous, but like that's just a really crappy spot to be put in as the partner, especially as a first girlfriend. So my oldest sister, Rachel, the one who gave me the great advice about my love life later on, a few years later, I was telling her and I was like, hey, like, can I come stay with you? Mm-hmm. So I stayed with her that weekend because I was like, I don't feel comfortable going home and staying there because I feel like mom's gonna essentially attack me verbally, maybe physically, because there's a whole history of that. I was, and she's like one of the first people I came out to because I was like, this is what it is. Yeah. Like, I'm not doing anything wrong here. It's my sexuality.
Right.
And of course, Rachel is the most accepting human of all time. Right. And she was like, okay, like, how can I help you get this done? Like, so she was like, we're going to have mom and dad over for dinner and we're going to sit there and you can tell them over dinner and I can be there to like buffer, mediate. Because that's been her role her whole life is the mediator, as the oldest child.
Can I ask you something about this?
Oh, yeah.
Did you feel like within yourself comfortable with your own sexuality yet when you were going to come out? You felt like it was fine and like
yeah, it was for me, what's nice about the university I went to is it's one of the statements that we say is like gay by May or your money back guaranteed because it's so queer.
So gay.
It's so gay. It's a theater school. Like that's all it is theater and arts and music and like dudes playing the harp. Like it's super gay. And like it was very comfortable. And I had never really grown up with the mindset that being gay was wrong because it wasn't something we talked about because there wasn't anything around. Like there were no queer people to like base it off of to be like, hey, mom and dad, what's that? Can you talk to me about it? Like there wasn't really that conversation.
It wasn't really in your environment.
It wasn't in the environment. My church, when we did go to church, didn't really focus on homosexuality.
Okay.
Or if they did, like it completely went over my head.
Okay.
So not so much. So I felt pretty comfortable. And of course, like when I originally came out to all my friends, I was like, hey, like, I'm coming out, like, I'm bi, I have a girlfriend. And of course, they're all like, yeah, we fucking knew. We were just waiting for you to figure it out. And I was like, for the love of Pete, you could have told me because that would have saved me so much time and energy. But, like, I felt perfectly fine with it. When my other sister, who is also gay, came out, like, she very much struggled and I think still continues to struggle with her sexuality and being comfortable within it.
Yeah.
And she's even told me, she's like, that's something I envy about you is that like when you like know who you are, like you are very comfortable and just in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was fine with it. It was just, but like coming out's scary. And,
of course.
Like it's scary even if you are in a position with parents who are super loving and accepting and you already know that, it's still terrifying.
Absolutely.
Because like, what if? It's always the what if.
Well, and there are parents too that present as very, very accepting towards other people, but it's when it's their own kids.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have a completely different reaction.
Exactly. So with mine though, like I knew it was going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Because that's just how my mom is. My dad, I didn't really know at that point because it's not like we had those conversations or anything like that. But the issue is my mom has always been, when they were together, really good at like riling my dad up and like kind of like making him anxious. He's kind of, I think I consider him like a slightly anxious individual.
Yeah.
If he has something pushing him behind. And mom was really good at poking the right buttons and making it seem like a whole fucking big deal.
Yikes.
Right? So we have the dinner. They come over. I don't even say, like, I'm gay. Like, I don't even say that. I don't say I'm gay, I'm bi, anything like that. I just say, like, because they're like, oh, what is it that you're going to tell us? And I'm sure they're like, she's pregnant. She is on drugs. She is doing something weird. Like, is flunking out of college. Like, something of that nature, which, like, okay, that's fair. I think I completely blindsided them because I think I was the kid that they did not expect to be the gay one.
Right, because you're extremely femme, as we've discussed.
Yes. So, and I had a history of boys.
Boys, yeah.
Right? Like, my other sisters, not so much. Like, Rachel, straight as a board, but, like, they always assumed she was the one who was going to be a lesbian because grunge was the thing. So she was, like, the plaid and the docs and the ripped jeans. And, like, she looked like the standard lesbian uniform. Like, that was her thing. Never really had any boyfriends, but, like, would go to dances with boys and get asked out by them all the time. We had a boy that would, like, rev his engine as he drove by the house. Like, it was a whole fucking thing. Because she was the petite, pretty, like, golden child. And then there was me, who was, like, obviously, like, interested in boys and dating the boys and going out with the boys and getting caught doing bad things with the boys.
Right.
And, yeah, boys. Like, they're, like, straight. So I have this dinner and they're like, what are you going to tell us? And I just said, well, like, I have a girlfriend. And of course.
You just left it at that.
I just left it at that. I have a girlfriend. And of course, my dad is the first one who reacted. And he goes, what do you mean you have a girlfriend? Like, right? Like, he gets very, like, puffy and, what do you mean you have a girlfriend? And, like a girlfriend, like, she's your friend? Or, like, because, you know, in their generation, it's girlfriend is your, like, your gal pal.
One of my biggest pet peeves is when people are like, my girlfriend, and then, like, they're fully straight. And I'm like, don't say that.
How dare you?
Don't.
Taylor Swift.
Closeted.
Yes. We can get into that another day. But, yeah, so I have that. And, of course, my mom's just, like, sitting there doing the stewing, brewing, scary thing that she does. And dad gets kind of riled up and Rachel's like, hold on, like, calm down. Like, yeah. And I was like, well, yeah, like, we met this last summer. We've been together. Like, it's a long distance relationship. Like, the times that I'm coming home, I'm going to see her and everything. And my mom, like, it turned into this whole fight. Like, I think I blacked it out. I really do.
Probably.
Because I think I was just so freaked out. Like, when you're confessing or admitting something or something's going on that's, like, scary in your mind or really stressful, you know how, like, the blood pumps in your ears? I don't know if this does
1,000%.
And it's like you're in, like, a bubble and you can't hear anything.
That is exactly what happened to me. So, yes, I know.
Yeah. So, like, I don't remember anything that was said. I remember my dad sitting in the chair kind of being loud and boisterous. I remember my mom getting up and, like, coming towards me as if she were going to probably hit me or something of that sense. And I remember Rachel, who has always done this, coming in between my mother and me, like, standing in between and being like, you're not gonna fucking touch her. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
And I kind of remember it exploding, blowing up, and them leaving the house and me just being in, like, tears. Just massive tears. And over the course of, like, because that was kind of towards the end of the school year, so I was back for the summer and I was seeing her, and what's nice about this girlfriend is that she was actually in the process of transferring to my university, so we were actually gonna, like, get to be together more of the time. But, like, over the course of those months, like, my mom, like, we would just get into screaming matches. Because it was always like, you're not really gay, like, you don't know who you are. Her thing is, like, lesbians that are attractive cannot possibly be gay because they can get men. Therefore, because I'm pretty and can get men, I couldn't possibly be a lesbian.
That is just an idea that is pushed by a patriarchal society that we live in, because what does it make? It makes men as the ultimate prize. And if you can get the ultimate prize, why would you not?
Well, what really... Wolf over here is like, duh.
You are a prize, Wolfie.
You are a prize, Wolf. But, like, what really grinds my gears about it is that she's part of this like women's group, and of course it's all like boomer generation or older. And she's like, yeah, I have lesbian friends who are in it that said they chose to be gay because it was just easier. And forever I've always been like, I'd like to meet these women and have a conversation with them because they don't exist. I don't think they're real. I think you made them up in your fucking mind. So yeah, that was like, we would get into these screaming matches for the longest time. And basically she'd like run me out the door. Like I would just be like, I'm leaving, and I'd go see my girlfriend. And you know, she was great. The thing is, like, she understood when she came out, she was terrified, but she was a teenager, and her parents were just like, that's okay, honey, we love you anyways. And that was it.
Amazing. Like, I love for anybody that has had that experience, love that for them.
I love that for them. Jennifer, my wife, is in the corner, and she had a very similar coming out experience that, of course, was super stressful for her and terrifying, but like, it was a breeze.
It's amazing.
It was so amazing. And I have the best in-laws ever. Shout out to the in-laws who are hopefully never going to listen to this. But...
Definitely not.
But so during that time frame, my mom's being just an absolute dick.
Wait, did she think that you were bi, or did you come out as a lesbian to her?
We didn't really talk about a label.
Okay.
I just had
You
a
just
girlfriend.
said, I like girls. I have a girlfriend.
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know what they assumed during that time frame. Really, to my friends, because they were the ones who really asked for the label, I was like, I'm bisexual, and that later fluctuated into like, I'm very gay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very gay.
As gay as it gets.
But like during that time frame, there came a fight where my mom was just so vicious towards me, just like in every possible way, that I finally snapped because my dad was there that day. My mom was running me out the door, and I'm in the hallway, and I remember saying something along the lines of, it really sucks to have a dad who is capable of sitting in silence and letting their child be treated this way. I said it loud enough for him to hear. And I think that clicked for him.
Yeah.
Because like, you have to understand that at that point in their relationship, like my dad was very much a battered husband.
Yeah.
Like very much a battered husband. Went through immense amounts of abuse. Didn't realize it was happening to us on the offside. Like, that's
your mother was emotionally and physically
physically abusive to not just us as kids, but also to dad. And so it was easier to keep quiet than it was to stoke the fire.
Right.
Because it turned into shit.
Right.
Right. So during this whole time frame, after saying that, like I remember that because I was going out the door as he was getting up and being like, you need to like lay off, like saying that to my mom, and I was leaving as that fight was starting.
Right.
So I don't know what he went through during that time frame, but the thing is, whatever it was, I think really flipped a switch in him, because we have a great relationship today. Like really good. He's a great person. He's very accepting. He doesn't care. And I remember months later, there was a moment where we actually had the house like to ourselves. Mom was off doing whatever luncheon that she was doing with her ladies. And we had this conversation, and he told me the story about his theater teacher and how he learned about his theater teacher being gay. And he actually, like, my dad reconnected with him years later, and he had AIDS because it was through the whole 80s.
Right.
Whole thing.
The epidemic.
Yeah. Pandemic.
Sorry, it's too close to 2020 for me not to be calling everything a pandemic.
Yeah, but like the AIDS epidemic of the 80s. And he and my dad had a conversation where he was like, you know what? Like, I was just so lonely. And my dad said, he was like, my theater teacher says I'm just so lonely, and it broke my heart. And he was like, that was what made me realize that, like, it doesn't matter who you love, like, everybody is deserving of love, no matter what it is. And he was like, and that came back to me during that moment. And he was like, I realized that I needed to be far more supportive of you. He was like, it doesn't matter. He was like, for the longest time, I thought there was something wrong with me. Like, I had parented you wrong. Like, I was a bad father. I had shown you a poor version of what a man is supposed to be, or something like that. And he was like, and I was like, no, that's not it at all.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I'm realizing that it doesn't matter. Like, you're going to love who you are going to love. I just want you to be safe and happy and taken care of.
Yeah.
And that meant everything
in
the world to me. And that, like, we had a really close bond after that period of time. And then they went through a divorce, and that was like a weird thing. And then we kind of recultivated that as an adult. But like, he's always been super accepting of every single one of my partners. He jokes around with them. Like he's a jokester. Like he likes to fuck with people.
Yeah.
I get my humor from him fully.
I was going to say, I can see that in you.
I am my father's daughter through and through. But so that was like the silver lining of everything coming out. The biggest issue for me, aside from being told that I was like too attractive to be a lesbian.
Which are like, thanks,
like,
but
thank
also
you.
No thanks.
Like that's a compliment, but like it wasn't a compliment.
Right, you're like, I'll take the first half, but like the second half, no.
Yes, correct. Was the fact that I came out before my sister, my middle sister, who was also a lesbian. She, like, we all kind of knew that she was, but like we were letting her
do her own timing.
Like do her own timing. We're all on our own journey. That's fine. And I remember when I was originally going through my sexuality crisis in high school and trying to figure that out, there was a moment where like I was talking to this girl and I had this really big crush on this girl, Zoe, in high school. And my sister was like, she's trying to make fun of me. Like,
right.
Oh, you really, like, you must have a crush on this girl. No, right? And I was, there was a moment. It was the first moment that I think I ever told anybody about my confusion, if you will. And I was like, actually, yeah, I think I do. Like, what do you think about that? Like, and it was in a car and it was like quiet and like mom wasn't there. And of course her response, which I do not hold this against her, was, it's just a phase, it'll pass.
Because she was probably telling herself that.
I think she was really struggling at that time. That was in high school. So this is before all of the coming out with me, right? Like that's years prior. In hindsight, I think she was really struggling with her sexuality. I think she was telling herself it was a phase and that it would pass for her.
Yep.
So when I come out, before that weekend, I had actually called her to tell her as well, like before my parents knew. And I was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that like I'm telling mom and dad this weekend that I have a girlfriend like coming out. And she was just kind of like, okay. And like we hung up the phone. I know, right? Kind of a shitty first thing.
Yeah.
Mind you, this sister is 8 years older than me, right? Let's not forget the age difference.
She was that much
We're all
older.
8 years apart.
That's
all
insane.
Of us. So my oldest sister is 16 years older than me. But this one's 8 years older than me and hangs up the phone. And I was kind of like, kind of dejected because I already knew that she was too. And I was really hoping that
she would come out to you.
Well, that would open up a door for us to like, so I would have some camaraderie.
Yeah.
And that like, I would get a little bit of, like, hey, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like me too, thing like that. But redemption, she called me back a few minutes later and it was, hey, like you just told me something about yourself. Like, just so you know, me too. And I haven't come out to them either. And I was like, yeah, I know. But,
okay.
So it kind of redemption, but like I think I caught her off guard and she had a panic moment of like, do I talk about myself?
Right.
Do I open up this door or do I leave it where it is? Still having a lot of issues with her sexuality. That was like, it's been years and I think she's finally starting to come to terms with it.
Right.
So again, different journey for everybody. And she's 8 years older and is still coming to terms with it. Right. So we kind of had that situation. So both my sisters knew before I came out to them.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of it for me.
Did you know, like, for yourself when you were younger, like what age did you develop awareness that you had attraction to women?
Not until, well, see, that's it's really hard to pinpoint. Like in the journey, probably not until high school. And again, I thought it was a phase that would pass because that's what I was told. And there like wasn't a whole lot of representation to actually like feed off of. There wasn't a whole lot of TV to really feed off of. Like, and I also was in a household where I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of that. Like it was soap operas and Disney Channel and that was it. And Disney Channel did not have the gays on it. So
no.
Yet. But yeah, so I think going through the journey, probably not until high school when I realized I actually had like a crush on a woman.
Okay.
And I started realizing the way that I felt and like thought about women was maybe not normal. The L word existed during that time frame. I remember the sister that was gay, I caught her watching it once and I should have known, but caught her watching it once and I was like, oh, what's this about? Because it's called the L word, right? Like, oh, it's just a show about like a bunch of women and like love. She was like, what do you think about that? Because I was like, does L stand for lesbian? And she was like, yes.
She's like, long pause.
And I was like, cool. And like, I walked away. So like, I think she knew that I was cool with it, but like, it's terrifying, right? So hindsight, I should have known very, very early. My first kiss was with a girl on a playground when I was like 6.
Same.
So, but like, of course, they're like, you're a child. You don't know anything, right? Yep. So, that's fair. But like, there are moments in my life where like, I should have known based on like certain icons and things that I loved. Like, everybody loved the Spice Girls. Everybody wanted to be like Baby or Ginger or Posh and stuff like that. And I was like, I love Sporty Spice. Sporty Spice is great. And it's like, I don't want to be her. I want to fuck her.
You want to fuck Sporty Spice.
Sporty Spice. Yeah. To this day, I love her.
That's literally, I had that same experience with Hilary Duff. I had posters of her on my wall. I watched the Hilary Duff movie and I was like, I want to be her. She's a singer, blah, blah, blah. But like looking back, like I fully wanted to fuck Hilary Duff. I wanted her to sit on my face. Like that is literally all I wanted. But I was 11. I couldn't put that into words.
I'm going to one-up you on the posters here.
Okay. Do it.
So when we got into like high school era, Pirates of the Caribbean, Orlando Bloom became this huge thing. You would have thought I said Keira Knightley. No.
No, you loved Orlando Bloom because he has bi-wife energy. Of course huge you do.
Thing. Is that it?
Yes, I would fuck Orlando Bloom. I would absolutely fuck Orlando Bloom as a lesbian.
Here's the thing, is that I had a poster of him.
Right.
And I didn't have it on my wall. I had it on my fucking ceiling above my bed.
So that when you're touching yourself, you're seeing him. I know your tricks, bitch.
Okay, but the best part is, it's not like him as Orlando Bloom. It's him as Legolas, who looks like a woman. Okay? It's an elf, very slender, long blonde hair, like a masculine, like feminine
Orlando Bloom
energy.
as Legolas is a masked lesbian.
Okay. And I should have known. Yeah.
So your coming out story summarized is Orlando Bloom as as Legacy.
Really confused the fuck out of me.
Yeah, basically that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You should have known. Okay.
So, should have known. Like there are so many like, if I could go back and play the tape of my life, you'd be like, red circle here, red circle here, red circle here, lesbian. And that would be it.
Yeah. It's crazy how it doesn't work like that.
Unfortunately, no.
Well,
tell me yours.
I was going to say mine is going to be the same fucking thing because I should have known.
You had a dinner?
Well.
And Legolas posters on your ceiling.
It was really similar, to be honest. Okay, so I want to start off with childhood because that is where my gayness started. I had an experience. One of my core memories. I was 2. I had an experience with a girl at church under the table.
2 years old?
2 years old. Ah! I literally trigger warning. This is trauma. She was my age, so I don't know what to tell you. I just remember
it's a couple 2-year-olds just having a
grand old time. Was just 2-year-olds being 2-year-olds as they do. We might have to cut all of that.
I'm worried about us.
Listen, I have trauma. It's fine. So I had this experience. It wasn't anything like crazy, but it was like something that like piqued my awareness of sexuality at a very, very, very young age. And I remember my mom came into the room and found me under the table with this little girl and started screaming her fucking head off and blamed it on the little girl.
Oh.
And then yelled at the little girl's mom. And like, it was like this whole thing. So my early memories of like me involving myself with girls at all was very traumatic.
Also, lest we not forget, we talked about this in one of our earlier episodes.
We did.
Human sexuality starts at infancy.
It does.
It's normal.
Thank you for validating me.
You're welcome.
Because I actually feel like a lot of people have these experiences. Like a lot of my friends that I've talked to have these experiences, but people don't talk about it because they're like, that's weird. Like I was a child. And it's like, no, like shit happens when you're a kid because you don't know what you're doing.
No.
You're just exploring your
Honestly,
own body.
the reason you probably understood that it was quote unquote wrong to be doing is because of your parental reaction.
Exactly. I had no idea what was going on until my mom started screaming.
There it is.
So
you would have never known.
I would have never known. And then I immediately was like, okay, me with a girl in this context, bad. Like, that is, like, literally was, like, burned into my brain
Makes sense.
A very early age.
At a very early brain developing age.
Very early age. And I think that's why I still remember it. Like, I remember it so clearly because it was, like, a core memory that I formed. So fast forward, I had experiences with a lot of friends growing up. Like, from the age of, like, 2 to probably, like, 11.
Okay.
So 3 or 4 friends that I remember, like, I experimented with. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea that this was not normal. I didn't know what it meant. I just knew that, like, this was something that was happening. And, like, it felt like this was something that, like, I was just always going to be doing because, like, I had always been doing it.
Yeah. You just understood your sexuality early on, or, like, had a better understanding of it growing up.
But I did not know what gay even was.
Yeah. Well, how would you?
I had no idea. So my first introduction to the word lesbian, all of the OG, like, Christian kids from, like, the homeschool groups will understand this reference, but I don't know if you ever watched the Left Behind movies.
I don't think so.
Okay. Very traumatic movies about the end of the world when, like, literally God takes all the Christians to heaven and leaves everyone else on the world to, like, die in a bloodbath. Yes. It's about the rapture. Okay. So they have audiobooks. So I was listening to these audiobooks very innocently. And one of the characters in the audiobooks that got left was a lesbian.
What?
She got fucking left. I mean, of course she did.
Did she get left with all the other lesbians on the planet?
No, she got left with, like...
That would be awesome.
Actually, yeah, fucking leave me here. Y'all can go to heaven. Like, I'll stay with the lesbians. Thank you. Yeah. So I heard the word lesbian and I went to my mom and I was like, what does this word mean? Like, I don't know what this means, and it seems like something I should know. And she goes, where did you hear that? And I was like, the, like, audiobook I've been listening to. And she was like, you can't be listening to those anymore. It took them away from me. So she never explained what it meant.
So even in the context of lesbianism is bad in the eyes of the Lord, you weren't allowed to, like, hear the word lesbian.
Wasn't allowed to know what it meant.
Wow.
And that's, like, pretty, like, on par for the way that my parents handled topics that they were uncomfortable with. We will have to dive into that in another episode.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah, it will be. Okay. So that's the first time I heard the word. And then, like, the first person I knew that was gay was somebody I mentioned in, like, a previous episode. Like, there was a girl at my church who was gay who had a crush on my best friend. So that was when I was like, oh, there are people that exist that are gay. And, like, ever since that point, I questioned my sexuality. But it was in a very, like, subconscious way where I was like, I'm gonna end up with a man, like, I know I have to, but, like, I'm super attracted to women, and I know that face is, like, how I felt on the inside about that. And, like, if you had watched me try to date men, I
would pay for that footage.
It would have been a fucking reality TV show in and of itself, because it was just me being an absolute bitch. All of these guys that I tried to date. Like, they were like, I love you. And I was like, that gives me the ick. Like, go away. Like, I would be so mean to them. My first boyfriend, I, like, threw a lizard in his face. And the fact that he screamed, I was like, I'm breaking up with you. You're a little bitch. Like, you can't handle it.
Here's a lizard in your face. Be gone.
I was horrible. I was a scourge to the world of men. So I should have known. I know I still am. But, like, at least I don't have to pretend to like them. So anyways, I should have known way earlier. And then I was 18 and I had an experience with a best friend that I told you about. And then I experimented with women, like, on and off from that point until I ended up coming out when I was 24. So that's like 6 years.
Yeah.
When I think about it, I was in the closet knowing that I was, like, interested in women fully.
That's right, because you were, like, a late come out.
Yeah.
Late.
Well,
like,
I actually
later.
I started dating my ex, who I was with for a long time, when I was 24, but I came out when I was 25, actually, because I didn't come out until, like, 8 months into us dating. So,
aw, that's like my wife.
Yeah, I was a late in life lesbian, I guess. I mean, it was later. So I was, like, dating women. I felt super guilty about it. I was still very, like, under the control of, like, religion and purity culture, and I still considered myself to be, like, to hold the beliefs that my parents held, basically. So that caused a lot of internalized homophobia, and that's why I stayed in the closet for so long.
Your frontal lobe wasn't fully developed yet.
It was not. And none of the other lobes were either. They did not develop until I came out.
Only
I'm
one
aware.
was developed.
Literally. I actually feel like my brain was in this like limbo state of not being able to like actually function until I came out and stopped like holding on to the religious beliefs that I had. And then I was able to think for myself. And then I developed everything that I believed after that, which is fucking crazy because that happened when I was 25. So like the first 25 years of my life, I feel like I like had no idea who I was because I was not allowed to be who I was.
Yeah. So you guys were together. You're together for almost a year.
Yeah. So
and then you come out.
So I meet my ex that I was with for 5 years, and I was very much in the closet at that point. Thought I was bisexual still. Was still religious. We were long distance for 6 months, and then she moved to Texas for me. And then when we moved in together, I was like, I don't feel like it's fair for me to keep you a secret. Like, I love you. I want to be with you. This is really like important to me. I don't want to hide anymore. Like, I couldn't post pictures with her. I couldn't like, I was posting pictures, but I wasn't like saying anything about them. Like, I did not want to hide the relationship. So I was like, I need to come out to my family before like somebody else finds out and like tells her. And actually my sister-in-law found out first because she saw somebody had like delivered flowers to me.
Oh.
And she was like, I know that you have no men in your life that are giving you flowers right now. So like, who is this?
Who the fuck is it? Yeah.
So I came out to her. She had like a very mixed reaction in the beginning. She's grown so much and like just changed her mind on a lot of topics since then. But like, she was more just worried for me about like what it was going to do to my relationship with my family, which was valid because it did a lot. So anyway, so I go and I'm like, I'm going to tell my parents. And I knew it was going to be bad because context, my dad's a Baptist preacher, as I've mentioned, and my mom is like extremely religious. And so I knew it was not going to go well. So I go to my brother and sister-in-law's house. I let them know before. I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this tonight and the shit is going to hit the fan. So like, I need y'all to be like ready, like to pick up the pieces basically. And they were like, we got you. So
need an exit strategy.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I need y'all to like, just be ready for whatever happens. So I pulled my mom aside first because I did not want to tell them at the same time. I could not do it.
You couldn't have like a double up gang on you.
No, I was like already too nervous. So I take my mom into like a bedroom and I'm like, I sit her down and I'm like, hey, I just want you to know I'm currently in a relationship with a woman. Her name is XYZ and we live together. She moved here for me. And my mom didn't really have a reaction. She kind of was just nodding and she was like,
Oh,
okay.
That's almost scarier.
It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. When I told her the thing that you said happened to you where like the sound like just completely fades, I almost passed out. I started seeing like black spots in front of my eyes. Like I literally almost just
You forgot to breathe.
Yes. I literally was so terrified. And she was like, okay, like asked me some questions. She was like, how long has this been going on? She wasn't super surprised because quick backstory, I ended up having to tell her about the McDonald's proposition threesome I had because it went around school and like I knew she was going to find out. So I told her and I told her that I asked God for forgiveness and then she was like, okay, I forgive you. And I was like, I
repented.
never asked.
It's all good.
Never asked him for forgiveness, but okay. So she kind of like knew a little bit.
Okay.
But she was like, I need to go get your dad. Like we need to tell him.
Yeah, have a conversation.
And so brings my dad in. She was like, do you want me to tell him or do you want you to? And I was like, you need to tell him. Like, I can't like say it. And so she tells him and my dad immediately goes into like preacher mode and starts quoting Bible verses at me and is like, also says, I'm not surprised. I've always wondered about you.
What?
And I'm like, interesting that you acknowledge that I have always fucking been this way. And the fact that like I've tried to date men for 25 years hasn't worked, but you want me to continue doing that?
That's why
you want me to
continue you away from the word lesbian because they already knew and they were like, well, she doesn't know. She'll
literally,
never find out.
Like, that's literally, it was like trying to like keep me unaware of like what I was my entire life, basically. So he starts on his like rant with Bible verses, all this stuff. I started to have a panic attack because I like hearing the Bible verses was so traumatic for me in that moment. I was like, I already know what you're going to say. Like I was raised with all of this there is nothing you're telling me that I don't already know. So
may I ask, were you struggling with your sexuality from a religious perspective already during that time frame?
Yes. Okay, that's why I had a panic attack.
Because the Bible verses were just like really doubling down on that feeling of like bad.
I had internalized homophobia like extremely bad for probably 2 years into my relationship.
See, and from religion. Now, I would never guess that. So I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Good job.
I don't have it at all anymore. I don't give a fuck. They can literally eat my ass. But I had to go through some trauma to get here. So it is literally not a switch you can flip. Like you have to like rebuild a lot of times like your entire worldview to like get to the point where you're comfortable with yourself. Because I definitely was not.
Okay.
So I like felt extremely guilty. I felt extreme shame. I told my parents to pray for me because I like knew that I was like, I know I shouldn't be in this relationship and maybe God can like pull me out of like wanting this for myself. Which was like, looking back now, I'm like, yeah, God's not doing shit. If he exists, he like made me a lesbian for sure. As gay as they come.
In his image.
So my dad is very upset. I was like, I need you to stop. Like, I need you to stop saying this. So he walks out. My mom goes and talks to him. My mom comes back and she says, your dad says if you don't end this relationship, he's going to stop being a pastor.
Hey.
And I was like, be a fucking truck driver, daddy. That's fine. I was like, stop being a pastor then. Go for it. That's not the threat you think it is. Like, I hated him being a pastor. But he thought that was like, I don't know if he thought it was a threat. I think he was just in a mindset of, I can't have a gay daughter and preach that being gay is wrong. Which is so crazy to me.
But also good for you.
Yeah.
Sort of?
It's like you're kind of on the right track, but like you need to take a step further into realizing, yeah, you shouldn't be preaching that because you should accept your gay daughter and all of the other gay people in the world. You need to take
the rainbow road and like go on that journey.
Yeah, exactly. And then,
love.
You can still be a pastor and do that. There are
be a better one.
Yeah. Crazy. So anyway, so that was very horrible. And then kind of like getting into like my coming out story with my siblings, it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Like both of my brothers, my brother who's the one right under me who I'm closest to has been my biggest supporter, I can say, like 100% from day one.
Besties.
He never gave a shit what I did. He was always just like, I just want you to be happy. I want someone to treat you well. Like, I love that man. I wish every man was like him.
And
he's amazing.
Clearly loves you.
He does. He does. And then my other brother was like, look, I just like, he did have a moment where he was like, I just want to know that you're with somebody who can protect you.
Oh.
And he was like, I don't know if another woman can really protect you. And I was like, they can. I was like, don't worry. But I can also protect myself. Like, you don't need to worry about me.
That's such like a sweet, like, I don't have a brother, but like, that's like, I feel like that's like very brother
It was coming
sentiment.
from a good place. Yeah. And he was like, you know, super supportive of all the relationships that I've had so far.
That's great.
He was great. My sister it was a journey with her. It took probably 2 or 3 years for her to get to a point where she was like really accepting of it. But she was also younger and very much in the environment that I was also in when I came out.
The influence of your parents.
Right. Exactly.
That makes sense.
So I hold none of that against her at all. We have an amazing relationship. So yeah, that's my coming out story.
What about your parents now?
So good question. There's been an evolution.
I would hope so.
There has been. So my mom is very much now in a place where I don't really think she gives a shit what I do. She's very much just like,
realize that you're your own person.
I had to sit down with her and tell her that I felt like she didn't love me. And
at least she listened.
After that conversation, something like flipped. Yeah. There was a hard time in our relationship where we did not speak for, I think it was a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, because I cut her off because of homophobia, basically. And then I think she learned from that experience. And then when I had that conversation with her, she, I think, grew an awareness of like, it's either like I accept my daughter for who she is or I lose her completely. And she decided to accept me for who she is.
Okay.
And for who I am, speaking in third person. And then my dad just does not address it at all.
Okay.
There's like a don't ask, don't tell policy with my dad. But I've brought my new girlfriend around him. He'll give her a hug. Like he just doesn't say anything.
Okay.
It's like the best I could ask for from my parents. It's the best possible
case scenario. Yeah. It's so interesting to me. Like, I feel like both of our scenarios, like, it was not a fun time. No. But there was, like, a lot of evolutionary change that had to happen with them. My mom, not so much. Like, to this day, she's still like, you and your sister aren't gay.
You needed to cut your mother out of your life for multiple reasons.
For multiple reasons. Yeah. That was one of many situations. But, like, I think she also has a lot of internalized homophobia herself because I'm pretty sure she's a closeted lesbian.
Are our mothers lesbians? Episode 10.
Are they? We'll get into that one because I have stories.
You have stories. I have no evidence to back up this theory, but you do.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I know that like one thing for anybody listening to this that hasn't come out that I want to say is like it feels like the world is ending sometimes whenever you do come out. Like it feels like, and sometimes in some cases it is like you are going to lose people and like you are going to have people that don't accept you. Most of the time it does get better. But the strength that you build within yourself from going through that is something that like you will not get anywhere else. Like the way that I look at the world now, I would have never ever had like the confidence or the power over my own self to do anything that I do now if I had not gone through that.
Oh yeah. Up until that moment, I feel like I had a big question mark above my head. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us feel that way in the community.
Yep.
And the thing is like, it does get better and you can create your own chosen family.
Absolutely.
It's really tough to lose like family and like very, very close people to you. But again, for both of us, evolutionary change was necessary.
Yep.
Like we're humans. We get stuck in certain belief systems based on the environment and the bubble and the people that we're around. And that can change over time. It just depends on if they're willing to be open-minded enough to accept that and learn.
And sometimes you do have to set your boundaries, hold your ground, and fight for yourself. Like that is like very necessary.
Yeah.
Because sometimes those are the only things that make people take you seriously. Mm-hmm. And like you also have to infuse that with a level of empathy and understanding on where those mindsets are coming from. It's a very hard balance to strike.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't know if this is like my trauma with like growing up in an abusive household with the whole like other people have it worse, da 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 da. Mm-hmm. But like despite my like I still feel like on the scale I'm like just teetering past that midpoint of like bad. Like there are so like what is it? The percentage of homeless individuals, like a huge percentage is LGBTQ youth because their parents kick them out. They get completely disowned. And that's terrifying. And that's why it's so scary. And I like to think that we are raising new generations to feel like there really is no coming out anymore. Like, I feel like you shouldn't have to. This is something like my wife, her coming out story was essentially writing her parents a letter saying, hey, I'm gay and bouncing because it was just scary for her. And of course they were very accepting and that was fine. It's never really come up and they're wonderful. Like so open arms, so welcoming. Great. There are more gays in the extended family. Like it just is. But it's one of those things where some of us are far more fortunate to still have like it's not great. We're still dealing with the trauma and like them learning, but at least they're there willing to learn.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm lucky.
Yeah. I mean, I think I feel extremely lucky, not necessarily because of my parents, because that's still, it can be up and down for multiple reasons, but I have siblings that like were my fucking lifeline during that. Like, and to your point, chosen family, I have friends who never once like questioned accepting me. And like, those are the people, like you find the people that like 100% accept you, get them to rally around you during that time. And they will hold you up through the hardest parts of it.
And in the moment, it's going to feel like absolute hell.
Because it is.
When anytime you're going through something that's like really hard, it's going to feel awful. Like it doesn't matter what age you are. You could be coming out at 50 and be like, this is the worst thing ever. This feeling is terrible. It's never going to get better. It's going to get better one way or another. But like, again, like I said, I'm hoping that we're coming up with younger generations that don't feel like they have to come out. My wife was like, why do I have to come out? Like, why can't I just be who I am and not have the conversation of like, hey, mom and dad,
right,
I'm gay. Like, I hope that like us as parents someday in the future, it's one of those things where like our kid comes home and has a boyfriend 1 month and maybe has a girlfriend the next month.
It's never questioned.
Like, and we're just like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. And like, we don't have to have the conversation. Like it just is fluid because it's just normal and perfectly fine to be, just to be.
Well, I think Gen Z is like starting that.
I hope so.
And I think that their children.
We're rooting for you.
We really fucking need
Please.
You. We need them. Because I think their children will be like fully just able to.
Yes.
Just exist and not have to come out. I think there's a beauty in coming out sometimes because it is like in the world that we live in now, it's a way for you to like express your identity. Like, but what?
It's like a gay debutante ball.
It literally is.
Coming out into society.
Yeah, it is.
And you wear rainbow dresses instead of wedding dresses.
I don't know about you. I love being a part of a community. And I think being able to like say like proudly, like I'm a part of this community is something that like every human wants. And so like I just happen to like love being a part of the LGBTQ community. But like there are other communities that you can be a part of. Yeah. And so I don't know, there's like something very like, I don't know, it's just it's fun to be a part of just like a big gay group of people that have fun.
They just like love each other and trauma bond, literally. Yeah. Trauma bondage.
Which is what we're here to do. Speaking of bondage.
Kinky time.
Kinky time! Whee! Why did I just remind us of Teletubbies? Did you ever watch that?
Yes.
Do you know that they were gay?
Absolute Tinky Winky.
I couldn't watch it because I realized they were
Tinky
gay.
Winky. You couldn't watch it because your parents were like, those are lesbians?
Because there was an article on Fox News that said they were gay and my parents were like, immediately no.
Yes, because the baby in the sky is so gay. But yeah, like Tinky Winky.
That's how deep the homophobia runs is like, no Teletubbies for you.
Yeah. What was it? Tubby custard.
We're gonna lose our shit. Okay, anyways, let's go back to kink. That is also kink, but not one that we want to explore today.
That is a very specific fetish. Yes.
Anyways, are you ready?
Trauma?
Our spicy trauma segment.
We're gonna do it. We like to end every single episode with spicy trauma of the week or just like century.
It doesn't have to be things that happened this week, but like just experiences that we've had in our lives because like God knows there are so many of them.
God knows.
God knows.
Your pastor father
would
know. God, he is a lifeline to God.
I hope he doesn't. He would. That's why he doesn't talk to me. For sure.
God is whispering sweet
we don't
nothings
have daddy
in his
issues
ears.
over here. It's fine. Okay, you go first.
I go first. Okay. So I had a pool day with some of my friends and my wifey.
Okay.
Of course, because she's always in tow. But we had a pool day, and these are just like very fun human beings.
Right.
All very sex positive, all very body positive. We had everybody do the BDSM test, which was really fun. And
love that.
And one of my friends, she's holding it. She's talking to my wife, and she's just like, you know, the thing that I absolutely cannot stand as I'm handing her my phone with my results is she was like, I just can't deal with brats. Proceeds to look down at my phone and just absolutely loses her shit because what is number one 100% on mine? Brat.
You're a fucking brat.
So one, that was fun. But like we go in the pool, we're having a good time. One of our friends who's straight, like hetero flexible, but like mostly straight. She's like, oh, let's send some, like we're going to take like feet pics and leg pics. So like there's one on my Instagram where it's like all of our legs in the hot tub. And like she sent it to people being like, come play. And then there's another one where we all just have massive tits. In this pool. So there's like a photo of us with all of our boobs. Like none of our faces, just our boobs in the photos and stuff like that. So we're talking about that and we get in the pool. And my friend throughout the night has been like asking different things because we've been talking about kink and sex. And she just looks at Jen and I and goes, I'm going to make this weird, maybe, but I don't care. And we're like, what the fuck is about to happen?
Famous last words.
Famous last words. And she's like, I would like to watch you have sex sometime. Right? And we're like, okay.
Bitch, what?
And she was like, well, I don't even have to watch. Like, you can just, like, be in the throes and you can call me and I'll come over and I'll just, like, come in and sit on your couch. I just want to, like, listen.
So we have a voyeur on our hands.
Yes.
Which we love a voyeur.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Love her.
Do you want to let her watch you have sex?
I'm looking at my wife.
I'm looking at your wife.
I don't care because as my results say, I'm an exhibitionist.
Yeah.
So sure. Like she could literally come over and stand out on the fucking pavement outside of our window and she'd be able to see directly in because I leave it on, like, open all the fucking time. Please do not stalk me.
If I remember correctly, your wife also had voyeurism on her test. I'm just saying it could be fun. I just really want to hear, like, how it goes.
I'm not opposed
if
to
it happens. Okay.
But yeah, so that was fun. It's like mild, but like, yeah, we're getting requests for
that's amazing.
Exhibitionism. And because she was like, I just feel like it'd be really good and really fun. And she was like, it's for research purposes because she hasn't had a ton of experience with other women. I was the person who gave her, like, the sex toy shops. Talk? No, like the sex toy shops to, like, because she was like, oh, I have somebody coming to visit me and I don't have anything. And I was like, get it here. They have deals all the time. It's better quality than, like, X, Y, and Z.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I love that. we love a good proposition from our friends is honestly the theme that's running through all of this podcast.
Is being propositioned by
we
our friends.
love being propositioned by our friends. It's the best.
Tell me yours. What's yours?
Okay, so I'm gonna tell, like, a traumatic spicy date story.
Oh,
so this is one of the better ones that I have.
Okay.
So I was in my, like, hoe phase, which I live in perpetually, but, like, I was in, like, an extreme hoe phase a couple of months ago. This was in, like, November. Fucking everybody and everyone. It's fine. So I went on this date. It was a one night stand. It was with this girl who I thought was super hot. She kind of looked like a Kardashian, was an OnlyFans girl. I went on this date with her. She's super femme, like as femme as me, but like very submissive. Like I was like the top in that dynamic. Okay. So I
switch ass.
So we go to dinner. She's super nervous. And like immediately I'm like, oh, this is like her first, like probably her first date with a woman. Like she's like very, very, very nervous.
Oh.
And she had already taken a shot when I got there. And then the second I sat down, she was like, I just ordered us 2 more shots. And I was like, okay.
Oh, damn. This is what we're doing.
This is what we're doing. Took the shot with her. She ordered another round. Took another shot with her. So she's had 3 shots, like 2 minutes into the date.
And you've had 2.
I've had 2. And I'm like, okay, like maybe this is like not a thing. Like maybe she's like too nervous for this. I need to like check in with her and like see how she's feeling.
Or she's a raging alcoholic.
Yeah, I couldn't tell what direction it was going to go. So I was like, are you comfortable right now? Like, are you good? And she was like, yeah. She was like, I'm just really shy. Like, I'm just a very shy person. So like I am like, it takes me a while to like warm up.
Well, the problem with that is you're also terrifying.
I do not think so. I think I'm so
okay. Thank you.
I was being so nice. I was really trying
That's probably when you're most terrifying. Is when you're nice.
Oh my God, because it's not me.
Oh my God.
Okay, well, I was trying to put her at ease. Okay, so I don't think it was working because like she was not talking at all. And I was like checking in. I was like, are you okay? And she was like, yeah, like I'm just really nervous. And then so the end of the date comes. I'm not pushing anything. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go home. And she's like, can I come home with you? So she like blatantly asked. And I was like, okay, like maybe she is down. I don't know. Like we're going to go home and see. So we go back to my place. We come back here and I give her a tour of my apartment. We like sit on the edge of my bed. We're like looking out. I have a beautiful view. And like she crawls on top of me, starts making out with me. And I'm like, okay, this is not very shy girl of you, but okay. So like we start fucking doing what we do. 2 minutes in, this girl who was so shy shoves 2 fingers up my ass. Not 1, but 2 fingers without warning, without lube, without anything. Jesus. And I said, excuse me? I said, are sure? I was like, do you really want to go there? She was like, yeah. And I was like, I like just gently pulled her hand away and I was like, maybe later. Maybe later. So we continue doing what we do. And like the most awkward sex of my life, she makes no noise. Like no noise at all. Like I literally was starting to question my own ability, which I know I'm good in bed. Like, this is not a question that we have, but I started second guessing myself because I'm like, she's not like making a sound.
It's like having sex with a monk.
It literally was. And so I was like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And like, I end up like pretending to have a phone call and I come back.
In your own home? Like, I have to leave.
I'm like, you need to go. Like, I think this is not going to work.
God.
So I kick her out and she also was like, I think just like over her head. I didn't want her to do anything that she like would feel weird about the next day. I was like, this is feeling weird for me. I don't know how you're feeling right now. And she did text me the next day. And then I was like, absolutely not. It was spicy, but also like extremely traumatic. It was the worst sexual experience I've ever had.
Do you think she just like missed?
Like a straight
I'm
man?
Sorry, that's a very serious question. Was she like going for a separate area and just was like, pop? Like, oops, I'm just gonna run with it?
I genuinely have no idea.
Okay.
I didn't ask her. It felt like she knew she was in my ass. You know what I mean? Like when you just know.
Sure.
Like the way that she was looking at me, like there was like an acknowledgement of like I'm in your ass contact right now. It was just like that. That was the most like
oh my God.
facial expression that she had the entire time. And I was like, maybe she only does ass stuff. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is her thing. But I was like, girl, 5 minutes in, like, you gotta warn me. Use some lube. Like, she didn't even put her fingers in her mouth. She just went straight in. Traumatic.
Yeah.
So that's my spicy trauma of the week.
It's really good. I love that we're ending on your end. Communicate with your sex partners about what they like prior to literally diving into
there were a lot of things
that
went wrong in this scenario. Yeah. We could have avoided all of this by talking about what we wanted before. Prior.
There's too many shots.
Too much alcohol. I would avoid sleeping with people if you are intoxicated.
Yeah.
The first time you sleep with them.
Yeah. Prior to conversations.
Yeah. But, you know, shit happens.
You can be into butt stuff. I'm sorry. There's a joke in there, but I'm going to avoid it.
I think we're losing our shit at this one. No,
okay.
No pun intended. Anyways, stay tuned for next week's episode. Where hopefully the trauma is not so spicy. We're your hosts, Brigitte and Beth.
Okay, to wrap that up, because wow. Thank you for joining us today. Send us your spicy trauma so that we can share it, so we're not always talking about our own butt stuff. And
we want to talk about yours.
Yeah, and just get ready for next week.
We love the fuck out of y'all.
Go forth and have a spicy trauma-filled day. Be good.
Or don't.
She won't.
I never am.
The end.
It gets us every time.
If you liked today's episode, follow us on social media at Trauma Bondage Pod. Follow Beth at Dancing Gemini and at Bethany Nicole, and Brigitte at Your Fave Femme. If voyeurism is your kink, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Trauma Bondage Podcast, and subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/traumabondagepod.
We have several tiers with bonus content, access to our private Discord server, merch, and other titillating perks. If you know, you know. Production by Wolfstar. Special thanks to Details by Annalise for set design, D. Dumpy for music, and Noelle's art for artwork.